Every once in a while, an artist gives you some type of direct line into their soul, a direct sight ahead to what it means to be that artist in particular. This happens in visual arts, this happens in movies, this happens with novelists, this happens with playwrights, but it's almost most stunning when this happens with poetry simply because of the brevity of the art form. There is very little time, there is very little space for garnish on the meal, just that pure idea of the self distilled into words. And a lot of times, where that comes from in poetry is with the conceit, the very conceit. Here with Emily Dickinson, we have that first thing in this poem. Welcome to Strip Coverlet, where we squeeze the bigger picture out of literature. I'm Adrian Ford, and we are here for another poetry discussion, which will appear, of course, in two separate playlists here on the channel. Number one being the poetry discussion playlist. Number two being the Emily Dickinson playlist, a playlist of videos solely dedicated to Emily Dickinson. Now, the poem in question is The Spider as an Artist, and it reads as such. The spider as an artist has never been employed, though his surpassing merit is freely certified by every Broom and Bridget throughout a Christian land. Neglected son of genius, I take thee by the hand. So this poem is saying that the brilliance of the art employed, deployed, if you will, by the spider is so incredible that the merit itself is attested to by every Broom and Bridget used to clear away a cobweb, a spider web, a spider, his or herself, everywhere. Everywhere. But that genius, the genius of those webs, is not recognized. And because of that, Emily Dickinson is willing to, or our speaker, I guess I should say, is willing to step forth and take the hand of this neglected son of genius. Now, this sentiment itself probably should not be particularly surprising coming from Emily Dickinson, as Emily Dickinson did refer to publication as the auction of the mind of man. But the really beautiful sort of underlying truism, if you can say truism in reference to a metaphor, but the underlying truism that is so beautiful with this is how do spiders make their art? Where does the spider's art come from? The spider's art comes from connecting this wall to this wall. Got the spider web in between, right? Connecting this wall and this wall to the chair down here. Now you got this line here, all this stuff, all these different genius lines. That is exactly how poets operate. Emily Dickinson here is drawing that line between this wall and this wall, right in the middle there, with poetry, with poets, with art. You have spider over here, you have artist over here. The line drawing between them, the spider web between them, is Emily Dickinson saying that these two things are in fact the same. These two tortured geniuses, these two tortured artists. But really, the conversation that I want to get into surrounding this poem is just that. Is the tortured artist part of the artist itself necessary? If Emily Dickinson had put out just a couple poems and ended up being the Walt Whitman of her day, of her genre of poetry. It was possible, could have happened. Would we have 1,775 poems today if it did? Would we have the entire tome of Emily Dickinson to search through, to leaf through, to thumb through in order to find little bits of wisdom such as this one here? Would we have those things? I'm not positive we would. It seems, and we see this a lot. So in my estimation, what has happened to poets in our day is most of them have become musicians, most of those rappers, because it is the fun with words aspect of things that stays alive in that medium, in that art form itself. When you look at rap artists in particular, there is a very common theme among them. The first album they put out is the album they've had their entire life to write. It's all the best rhymes they've come up with to that point. It is whatever it is that makes them, the individual, very good, very talented, exceptional. That's how they got their label. That's how they got their record deal, I should say. Then the second album comes out. Normally, it's better because what the artist has been able to do between the first and second album is perfect his craft, even if his lyrics are marginally worse. The third album is the most artistic because what the artist has done, if he or she is worth their weight in salt, what he or she has done is taken what they have learned about. So one of the things that often troubles rappers early in their career is rapping with the beat. You have not had beats that were made for you your entire upbringing in the craft. Then you have those beats made for you for your second album. Then you have those beats made for you and you have ideas on how to further perpetuate your individuality within that art form. Now, what happens after that third album is oftentimes the artist will fall off. The artist's life has changed. And because of that, you were someone who was rapping about hustling, rapping about trying to pick up girls, rapping about what it's like living in a rough neighborhood. All of a sudden, none of those things are true. You're a millionaire. You're a multimillionaire. None of those things are true. How can you talk about them now? So, you have to find other things to talk about. Things that you have not been rapping about your entire life. If Emily Dickinson had penned 4 poems, struck gold, been Walt Whitman at his pinnacle, would we have gotten a 5th poem? I don't know. Would we have gotten all of the innovation that we ended up seeing throughout the multitudes of Emily Dickinson? I don't think we would have. I just don't think we would have. Certainly, almost certainly, we would have not seen the insight that we had from Emily Dickinson. This is to say that oftentimes writers will forsake the inward hush. Is that the right word? The inward hush. They will forsake the inward hush brought on by isolation in order to grow outwards. So if Emily Dickinson all of a sudden was a world famous poet and she was traveling France, would she have spent so much time aimed at death? Would her predilections have changed? Would she have been interested in other things, and therefore the emphasis on death have been lessened? And in my opinion, Emily Dickinson's death poems are the real winners. Those are the ones where everything is amplified. That's all I have for this poetry discussion. If you like or appreciate what it is that I do here, hitting the like button really does help me out, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other literature lovers. If you find yourself here by chance but not design, there's literature on the channel multiple times a week. There's poetry every Monday, and I hope to have you back for the next one.